everybody, Mike Iaconelli out here in the shop with a brand new video for you today. And in today's shop, we're talking about my top 4 baits for the month of April. Top 4 baits for the month of April. All right, let's start by talking about the month of April. And what does April mean as far as what the fish are doing, right? Seasonal pattern, water temperature, stuff like that. April's pretty much a springtime month, okay? It's a springtime month. And depending on where you live in the country, it could be pre-spawn, you know, fish that are staging to spawn, fish coming out of their winter pattern, heading toward the shallows, heading towards spawning areas, kind of waiting and eating on the way in. April, in a lot of places, actually means the spawn. Fish mating, fish undergoing the spawning ritual, you know, fish that are in the shallows, pairing up, fanning beds, actually spawning, guarding the beds, you know, actually spawning fish. A lot of places in April, that's going down. And last but not least, in a lot of places, April is late spring. It's post-spawn. You know, it's fish that are done already. Fish that are completed the spawning ritual and they're heading on to the next part of their life cycle, right? So places that are hot, Texas, Georgia, Florida, Southern California, places like that. Yeah, a lot of post-spawn, even early summertime fish in the month of April. So April, there's a lot of movement going on, but it's based around the spawn. Fish heading that way, fish spawning, or fish leaving that phase, heading to the next phase. So really a month of transition. But in these videos, you know how we do it. I'm going to give you 2 April baits for the northern part of the country, the northern half of the country. Let's draw a line from Virginia straight across the country. Everything north of that, I'm going to give you 2. And then from that line south, from Virginia all the way to Texas, Florida, Southern California, I'm going to give you 2 baits for the month of April for that part of the country. Let's start up north, and in a lot of places, the month of April are fish heading to spawn, moving that direction. They're coming out of winter pattern. They're starting to stage. You hear that term a lot, staging fish in April, pre-spawn staging fish. The good news is that fish in April that are staging, they know the spawn's coming, so they know they have to eat. So you have a lot of feeding fish in April. Because of that, I'm going to give you 2 baits that are reactionary baits, baits that I can move and they bite because they're hungry and I can make them react. And I'm going to give you 2 baits in April for the northern half of the country that you can cover a lot of water. You heard me say it in the beginning of the video. April means movement, fish that are on the move. So having moving baits helps you cover more water and helps you find the fish. We got to start with probably my #1 bait in the month of April, especially if you're in New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Northern California. If you're in the top part of the country, that water's still warming. It's not at spawning temperature yet. It's not in the mid-60s yet. It's in the 50s, the low 50s, the mid-50s, approaching the high 50s. Fish are staging. And I love, love, love a suspending jerkbait. You know, really big for me this time of the year because I think it does a good job of mimicking forage. And, you know, when you look at a jerkbait, that's a pretty good sized meal. That could be a big minnow, a big herring, a big shad, a big alewife, big cisco, a big whatever. They need to feed up. They need to feed up before the spawn. I like the short billed suspending jerkbait. This is a 112 Stunna. I like the long bill. This is the 112+1, has the little bit longer bill on it. The short billed April jerkbait for me is great from that 2 to 5 foot zone. On getting to that 5 to 12 foot zone, 6 to 12 foot zone, the deeper bill is perfect. Remember this in the month of April for a suspending jerkbait. The colder the water, the longer your pauses, the warmer the water, the shorter your pauses. So, you know, think about that in reference to what that water temperature is. Number 2 bait in the month of April, and this is a killer, and it's known as a springtime killer, is lipless vibration. Lipless vibration bait, AKA lipless, AKA rattle trap. People call it a rattle trap. That's a brand, but this is a great way to cover a lot of water in the spring and also elicit a reaction strike. It draws fish to the bait through vibration, through flash as that bait's turning side to side, and of course through a lot of sound. You know, you can cover a lot of water, but when you're in the spring, in the month of April, and you have submergent vegetation, okay? Eelgrass, milfoil, coontail, hydrilla, whatever, pads that are just emerging. This bait ripping up and down out of that grass, legitimately ripping it out, letting it fall, ripping it out, letting it fall, really does produce some of the biggest bites in the month of April in the northern half of the country. I love to use that yo-yo technique where I'm letting it fall to the bottom, I'm lifting it up. I'm letting it fall, I'm lifting it up. And when I get it caught in the grass, I snatch it. I use a quick upward rod movement, it pops it out, and when it pops free, those fish will eat it. I really like 1/4 ounce when the forage is small, 1/4 ounce when I'm real shallow, but a 1/2 ounce lipless. This is a Berkley WarPig. 1/2 ounce gets a lot of work for me in that 4 to 15, 4 to 12 foot zone. Great zone for spawning fish. Shad imitators are great. Golds are great, but there's something about a red lipless in the month of April. Okay, there's your 2 for the month of April for the north. Now let's go down south. This was a tough one because I wanted to pick a plastic that in the month of April could catch fish that are getting ready to spawn, fish that are actually spawning, or even a bait that could catch fish that are done spawning. Females hanging around the shallows or males guarding fry. And because of that, I really gravitated toward a soft stick bait. And you know this is true, guys. Look at the pro tours the last few years. Look at guys like John Cox have made a living in the month of April, pretty much fishing that one lure. That's it. Like, look at his deck. He doesn't even have a depth finder, for crying out loud. He's got a stick bait tied on. But it's true because I think it's versatile and it's great around some phase of the spawn, fish that are spawning or done spawning. I like the 5-inch Berkley General, or the Berkley General Max Scent is really good. You know, as far as rigging, guys, I fish it probably 2 or 3 ways the most. I fish it Texas style with a little weight, 1/8, 3/16 quarter, great around spawning fish, great around females that are still hanging around the shallows. I'll fish it weightless Texas rigged. And last but not least, there's that little wacky hook. And I'll fish it wacky style. And you know what that is. Basically, I'll just rig this one Texas rigged in the middle. You know, wacky rig is rigging it right in the middle, weightless. And phenomenal when you're casting around beds. Even if, listen to me, even if you don't like sight fishing, but you're in a pocket and you know they're spawning, rig it wacky and just fire it around. Fire it around little differences, right? They're always going to be spawning around something a little different. A stick as big as my pinky, a little stick, a little piece of grass. If you're looking at a bank and there's a root, a tree with roots on the bank, that's where they'll be spawning, right? So you could even catch spawners on a wacky without knowing they're there. And weightless wacky rig is great for fry garters too, okay? So 5-inch soft stick bait. And then last but not least, this was another tough one. April to me is a little early for topwater. April's just like next month, I'm gonna start talking about topwater, right? When that water temperature starts getting into the 70s, topwater. But we're just a little early for topwater. And because of that, I wanted to go with a swim bait, but not a regular swim bait. This is my favorite by far for this April month, this spawn phase, especially down south. And this is a little boot tail swim bait that is a perfect bait to toss around the shallows where fish have been spawning. The great thing about it, and guys, I'll fish it on just a screw lock swim bait hook, one without a weight or sometimes one with a little weight, doesn't matter. Throwing this boot tail grass pig around the shallows, I'm going to catch post spawners. I'm going to catch big females that are looking for an easy meal, that are trying to feed back up. I'm going to catch fry garters. If I reel this thing weightless through a little pot of rain on the surface, when that fry gets near the top, it looks like rain. That male's going to come and kill it. And even if I can blind cast this around a bed, I've seen bedfish come up and blast it. So it's a great bait because it can catch all those spawns of the phases of the spawn, and I can rig it weedless, right? So if I'm up in the shallows, grass, wood, brush, docks, skipping that boot tail swim bait, grass pig under docks, phenomenal. So number 4, number 2 for the south, a swim bait, something like a grass pig, something like a skinny dipper, boot tail swim bait, it's the deal. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this one. This shot, we're talking about my top 4 baits for the month of April. Remember, April means change in weather, change in fish that are moving. Try those baits up north, try those baits down south, and I promise you, you're gonna catch more fish. Listen to me, if you like these shop videos, stop right now, subscribe to my channel. If you're already subscribed, tell your friends about Mike Iaconelli Fishing on YouTube. We have a new piece of content launching every single week. Bye, guys. Hey, everybody, Mike Iaconelli out in the shop. Thanks for watching. And if you like this video, you have to check out that one, and I hope you like them.